The Bible says, be not deceived. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
All right, it's 4 p.m. on Wall Street. Do you know where your money is?
How much should I invest?
I really looking for some direction.
Should I hold on to my house as an investment for my future?
What should we do to have money that we're putting aside?
Welcome to Financial Issues, where we align reality with truth. Conservative talk radio you can count on. Financial issues that you need to know.
We face a disintegrating economy, a weakened defense, and an energy policy based on the sharing of scarcity. We will simply apply to government the common sense that we all use in our daily lives.
Now, here's your host, Dan Celia.
Welcome back, Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. It's great to be here. And it is Friday. We're going to try to get to as many calls as we possibly can today. So you're welcome to queue your call up. We're going to go. We may even go to calls this segment. So queue your call up, 866-300-9298. We ask that you keep your questions short to the point, and we'll try to get them answered and move on to the next caller. 866-300-9298. And again, it is Friday, and we try to get to as many of those questions as we possibly can. Yesterday, all the major indices closed in positive territory. The Dow was up 92. The NASDAQ, I'll tell you, the NASDAQ is having an unbelievable year. By the way, folks, just so you know, NASDAQ would be most of the technology stocks. Okay, so they're usually in the NASDAQ, so most of them are going to be covered in the NASDAQ. It's having an unbelievable year so far this year. It's up another 30 basically yesterday. The S&P up 11. So the market's feeling great about this economy. I mean, they're loving this economy right now, feeling very, very good about it. I don't know why. I guess because all of the bad numbers that we have received is due to the weather, and they're still talking about it. They're calling it, weathernomics now. They're talking about the economy. And here's the interesting part. I mean, they're doing everything they can. They're doing everything they can to ignore the numbers. And that's exactly what is going on. Now, the markets have been ignoring the numbers since late 2009, so we can't expect them to do anything else. They've totally ignored the fundamentals of the economy for the last 5 years almost. So they're going to continue to do that, I suppose. At some point in time, the shoe will drop on the markets as well, but they continue to ignore it. But it looks like everybody is in a frenzy to try to ignore the numbers, and they're blaming it on the weather, and it's a wonderful thing. But here's the problem with all the numbers that have come out, at least over the last 3 weeks or so, and they've all been lousy for all practical purposes. The manufacturing sector, at least in the Northeast corridor, and some of that due to weather, but not all of it. We see the Philly Fed manufacturing sector go negative, and it didn't just go negative by 1 point. It went negative, considerably negative, not likely to make that up in 1 month's time. But the other thing is, in all of the numbers, so you know how they give you a number, and then they revise sometimes past numbers. Well, all the numbers from not all of them, the vast majority of the numbers from November, December have all been revised downward. They've all gotten worse. Weather was not an issue in November and December. Remember November and December when I was whining about the numbers saying, how does this happen? Because there is no correlation. You might remember this. I was saying there's no correlation between the the good number and the consumer sentiment. There was no correlation. It didn't make sense. It was almost impossible to put two and two together. I mean, it was crazy. And I talked about it at length it seemed like every week through the end of November and all through December in reference to any of the indices or any of the economic numbers that were coming out because there weren't any correlations. Well, now everybody's saying, well, we're just going to wait and see how things go with consumer sentiment this month. Well, I don't know that it matters, but at least they think that's the case. They refuse to look at this as anything but a weather event. And it's really scary to me. It's really scary to me that they are continuing to do that. At some point in time, though, folks, as I said, the shoe will drop. 866-300-9298. We're going to go to phones early, and we're going to stay with them. 866-300-9298. We've also got, this FCC ruling. You've been hearing a lot about it. I was talking about it. I was trying to get Jay Sekulow or Jordan Sekulow to come on this morning. They couldn't make it, maybe Monday. But, talking about this FCC ruling as we see continued tyranny throughout the United States of America. Yes, I said tyranny. We've got the Obama administration continuing to hijack governmental departments and turning that department against the people of this country. And I don't know if that's the textbook description of tyranny, but it's good enough for me. Because that's what we continue to see. We see, and I might not, if I'm going to say the Obama administration, I might as well throw in the Justice Department as well. But more hijacking of yet another department. And then the president stands up there in the media yesterday saying, well, I believe in free speech and total transparency and accountability. But, I think this is going to be good. I mean, really? Does anybody believe that? Let me ask how many people out there believe anything that he's saying. I know this much. MSNBC believes it. CNN believes it. The majority of the news, they don't have anything to worry about under this. That's for sure. Here's the question that I have about all that. Does it bother anybody or is it just me that we have a president of the United States that's pushing through a major offense to the First Amendment when he's a lame duck president? So they're talking about this FCC study taking 3 years to complete. 3 years. By my calculations, he's gone. So does it bother anybody that he is still almost at a frenzy pace pursuing these kinds of things when he's not going to even be here to use this abuse of power, social control, power grab, like he would like to? Or is he going to be here? Is he going to be here? I don't know. I find it a little odd that this far left progressive agenda would continue to be pushed by a president who ought to just be worried, although I know he is, on hanging on to the Senate this year. His approval rating's gone up. So I sent out on Twitter that you might have seen the article from Gallup in reference to his approval rating going up a bit. And I basically said, hey, what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means this whole climate change thing must be working. So I would suspect that we're going to be continuing to hear talking points coming out of the liberals in reference to climate change, because they're going to credit all those conversations as raising his approval rating. Well, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's what this president was sworn in to do. He made an oath to that. He's doing anything but that. So is that going to impact the economy? Of course it is. It already is impacting the economy. 866-300-9298. We're going to go to the phones early. Let me go to Veronica. Veronica's calling us from Arkansas. Hey, Veronica.
Good morning, Ben. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I I had a question. I've been listening to your station for a couple of maybe months now, almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, my husband passed away December, and we never had any kind of savings. He didn't have insurance, actually, so it was really hard on us this past December. And I just wanted to ask you, as a single mother, you know, I hear you're so knowledgeable in so many kinds of savings, accounts, bonds. I just wanted to know if you could give me a suggestion on where I could start learning and you know, from the bottom to the top, what I need to do as a single mom to start saving for my kids, for me. What would be my first direction, the right direction to go?
Well, the first thing, Veronica, is to do what you just said, and that is to start saving. And so how many children do you have, Veronica?
I have 3 children.
Okay, so you're receiving Social Security benefits for those 3 children?
No, I don't. I'm not receiving anything. Nothing at all.
How old are they? Are they out of high school?
No, they are. My oldest one is 13, and then I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Have you applied for that Social Security?
Never.
Okay, well,
I've never. I actually had insurance through my job, which I was paying a lot, but now due to the the whole Obama new insurance, I have to pay double. So for every paycheck, I would pay like $207 for family, and now it's going to go up to like $450.
Well, Veronica,
I don't know what to do.
You know your children have the right to, and you need to apply for it as soon as possible. So Social Security benefits until they're out of high school or 18. And it's it would be a considerable amount of income to you. I'm going to throw out a number here. It may be a little more than this, a little bit less, but somewhere around $1,500 a month.
Oh, wow.
And you need to apply for that. Now, I believe that it will be retroactive, but so make sure that you call the Social Security Administration. It doesn't matter if you have to be on hold for 5 hours. Stick to it and get the forms that you need to fill that out and get that applied for. That's extremely important. You need to do that. So that's going to add a considerable amount to your monthly income, at least until those children are out of high school. Then it stops. But it'll give you an opportunity, and that's where the reason I asked, because I just assumed that was happening, and I wanted to check, and because I was going to tell you about that, is to try to make it a point to save some of that money every month. But first thing you got to do is apply for that. That's number one. Okay. And please do that next week. If you don't do it today, do it next week, because that's really important. The other thing is that it's difficult until you start receiving that, but you need to have a discipline of saving. So here's what I want you not to do. I don't want you to get too consumed with trying to learn too much. Just keep listening to the program and stay engaged. But I want you to start saving, because the most important thing you can do for your family right now is to start having a little bit of a savings. Now, here's the thing. I don't want you to get caught up with, well, I can't save anything. I don't care if it's $5 a month, $10 a month. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I want some money coming out of your checking account going right into your savings account from your bank. I'm not talking about investing now. That's very different than savings. I'm talking about just savings. I want you to do that first. But your first order of business is going to be the Social Security. Start receiving that income. It's your children's money, technically, but start receiving that income. Start saving that. And let's keep talking. I want you to call me back. I'm right up against the break here. If you have another question, you're welcome to stay on hold. But do the Social Security and start that saving. Financial Issues, we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Dan Celia from Financial Issues. You know, I don't talk enough about estate planning, but let me just remind all of you, if you've got a complex situation, maybe you're about to receive an inheritance, maybe you have appreciated assets, homes or stocks or other valuable assets, you want to try to get the best tax situation you can, make sure you do an estate plan. Would you call the AFA Foundation? 800-326-4543, extension 345. Tell them that you feel you need to sit with Dan or someone else to go through your plan. We're happy to do it. Don't get bogged down in all the details and options. Talk to us first to see how we can help sort it out for you. Call the AFA Foundation, 800-326-4543, extension 345. Call today.
866-300-9298, 866-300-9298. Financial Issues, American Family Radio Network. We sure appreciate all of you for being with us. I'll give you an update on the market. By the way, oil is up to 102 a barrel. Let's see, 102.49 right now, 102.49. Gold is on its way back up at 13.22 right now. Silver at 21.76. Corn, wheat, negative. Everything else positive in the commodity world. Natural gas is 622. 622. That's a huge jump. I mean, it just, what was it, 6 months ago? It was at 410. So when you think about it. Anyway, I was talking to Veronica. So Veronica, I hope you're still listening, from Arkansas. So the first thing you have to do is get to Social Security, get that applied for. I'm just amazed that you didn't know about that, and I'm amazed that no one said anything to you about that. Such an important thing, and you know, obviously a significant amount of income. So make sure you do that and get that taken care of, because that will be a significant amount of income. So that's number one. But the main thing is, you know, I try to encourage everybody. Listen, you know, continue to try to absorb as much as you can, try to learn, try to understand, because our hope is always that someday you'll be in a position where you'll be able and need to start thinking about doing some investing and things like that. But rather than I get caught up in that now, that you would be better served getting kind of caught up in the fundamental things. And the fundamental things are trying to stay out of debt, doing everything you can to stay out of debt and get out of debt. And the other thing is to save and to continue to save. And of course, do everything in your power to continue to give as you're able to give. And, you know, don't rob yourself of that act of worship. So if you do those things, you'll be fine. Continue to learn, continue to listen, but I don't want you to get overwhelmed with a brain drain on trying to understand everything. Let it happen gradually, but understand the basic fundamental things of saving. Saving is not investing. Saving is in a bank, in a money market account or a savings account at a bank that you can get to at any time you want. So there's no issue there. You can get that anytime you want. And, you know, you need to build it up, because it's that savings that's going to keep you out of debt. You know, one of the kids needs something, you have some cash so you don't have to use a credit card. If, you know, you're a single mom, something very critical to you is your vehicle. You got to get to work. So, you know, if something goes wrong with your car and you need to fix it, you don't want to be in a position where you've got to use the credit card again to put new tires or to fix it. So that's why savings is so important. So continue to work on savings. And I only say, I don't say, well, save $5 or $10 because you're going to, you know, create, you know, wealth. That's not the point. The point is not to get you focused on not the amount, but on the discipline of doing it every day, or doing it every payday. And it doesn't matter the amount. It's the discipline of it continuing to happen regardless of the amount. You will see, and God will show you ways that you can add to that, or how, wow, I hardly even missed that. I can probably add another $5 or whatever it might be. So do that first. I think the Social Security is going to be a huge help to you, because if you're somebody, which you've said you're sitting right where you have nothing left, all your work is going towards these bills, Social Security is going to be huge for you. Because like I said, it could be, it may be more than $1,500. It could be easily $2,000. I'm counting all three of them together, but it's going to be fairly significant. So it'll be a huge help to you. So I'm so glad you called. I'm so glad you called for that reason, if none other. Let me go to Bob in North Carolina. Hey, Bob.
Yeah. Hey, Dan. How are you?
Good.
Dan, I've got a question, but first I want to comment on something you were talking about a little bit ago about the FCC.
Yeah.
Not to beat on the same drum, but Sal Alinsky was one of Barack Obama's heroes, and you've probably heard and seen his 8-point suggested plan if you wanted to revolutionize the company or bring it under government control. If you'll go down 1 through 8, if there was a way to put a percentage to it, I believe, having kind of studied this, that we're anywhere from 20 to 50 to 60% complete on each one of those points he makes. I don't know if you've seen them. I wish you could discuss it one day.
I may do that. Yeah, I may do that. That's a great point that you bring up, and I should address it. I think I'll do that one of these days soon. Yeah, good stuff. But it's scary. I mean, it's scary, and nobody, nobody's paying attention. Everybody's going along, and listen. This is tyranny. This morning early, Bob, not to get off topic, I know you have a question, but this morning early, I pulled out my Constitution, and I went to Article 2 of the Constitution, which talks about executive powers, and I just read through it. It's all stuff that I've read over and over again. But if you read Article 1, it talks about the power of the Senate and the Congress. I mean, I don't understand. It's unfathomable to me that this guy is still in office. I mean, and if what he's doing is not tyranny, I would like to know, somebody call me and give me a definition that exonerates Obama from tyranny. Anyway, go ahead, Bob.
It's a plan. It's a plan.
It is a plan.
If you pull these up on the computer, you look at them. I mean, it's being instituted and it's being completed. And politicians know this, but they're afraid to talk about it, afraid they'll be labeled, conspiracy. But anyway, my question is that I was listening to a guy on the internet the other day, and he was saying that if you took the amount of people that were working in 2007, 2008, compared to the amount of people that are working right now, that true unemployment would be about 37%. Mm-hmm. Which they don't, I think the White House is corrupt. I think those tentacles go out to all of its departments. They know what he wants, and they know that they had better accomplish it or else. And I think they fudge these numbers. They're talking about the gross product in America. I think they're all fudged. Yeah. And what do you think about the real unemployment compared to who was working in 2008 and who's not working now? I'm talking about the gross workforce.
Sure. Well, here's what I know, Bob. I know that if you go back to this labor participation rate that we had in 2008, if you just go back to that number, forget about all the other unemployed that wouldn't be classified as being out of the workforce. So if we just take the labor participation rate that we had using government numbers, I'm not using my numbers because I don't believe the government numbers are accurate. But if you did that, then our unemployment would be 10.3%. That's what it would be just if we put the labor participation rate back where it is. When you begin, if you add in the 13.2% that are underemployed, these are people that are working part-time or working at jobs. These are computer engineers that are working retail right now part-time. When you add those in, it goes up dramatically higher to about 18%. So if you add in, and that's if you add in Those that aren't anywhere, in other words, they're not out of the labor they're not out of the labor participation workforce, and they're not considered unemployed because they haven't done anything. Example, 1.5 million college students graduating that can't get a job. If you add those in, it goes up yet again to some number. I don't know what it is. But here's the thing that nobody else adds in. If you add in the population growth, which nobody wants to take counting of, but if you add in population growth to the workforce, we really have a problem. And I'm sure we're probably closer to the 19 to 22%. So, I mean, it doesn't, all of that is, I mean, that's horrible. But let's just go with the BLS and say the labor participation rate, let's just stick to the 10.2%. 10.2% unemployment is pathetic for our country. So, listen, I've been harping on this. It's about jobs. It's about a lot of things, but it's mostly about jobs. It's about our inability to earn income. We're at 1973 income levels right now. 1973. So if you're in one of those median household incomes, you are working, when you factor in inflation, at 1973 levels. And it is, and we have a labor participation rate. People say, well, they've all retired. Okay, say they have, which they haven't. That's a huge deception. But if they did, you mean to tell me that today in 2014, this labor force is perfectly okay? That is the same labor force we had 37 years ago when we didn't have half as much GDP as we do now. Really? Come on. I mean, it's just hard to believe that everybody is buying in to this irrational enthusiasm that the Federal Reserve has created, and nobody wants to be willing to look at the hard numbers. I'll tell you when they look at it. They'll look at it when the house of cards comes crumbling down and the winds are getting stronger and stronger. Let me go to Donna in Alabama. Hey, Donna. Go ahead, Donna. Good morning.
Oh, hey, thanks. Hello?
Good morning.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Hey, I have a question. I have an IRA beneficiary through Fidelity. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if I should let them, I talked to them yesterday, whether they should manage it or if I should just put it into a money market fund through Fidelity. And the reason I'm asking is because I have another job since my husband passed away, and my expenses are more than what I'm making. Mm-hmm. And my house is on the market. Mm-hmm. And I might just be too nervous about what to do, and I just don't want to. I watch the stock market go up and down. Everything is in Fidelity Magellan. They're suggesting a balanced money market, like with bonds and cash. And
how old are you, Donna?
57.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you need to get a little bit more conservative than that. Is this enough? I mean, is this money that you're obviously going to need when you retire someday? Is this your only retirement account? This inherited IRA?
There's this this IRA yes, and then there's also some insurance money that is in a different account.
Okay, but that's not IRA money. That's just in another account.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think to me, I would consider rolling it either into an IRA account that you can have a little bit more control over. But I do think that you need to be conservative. And, some of the bond funds right now, I mean, if we read what the Fed's report looked like on Wednesday, if we take a look at that, I mean, indications are that they're not going to be afraid to raise interest rates. I only bring that up because if they raise interest rates, some of those bond kind of funds that they're talking about putting you into for a balanced portfolio is, they're not going to do well either. Now, I don't believe that you ought to have it all in money market account by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, I think it would be prudent to have 40 or 50% of it maybe through the end of this year and, see how things shake out. I'm okay if you want to stay at Fidelity. That's up to you. But if you wanted to stay at Fidelity, I would suggest to them that, hey, I want to take 40% and just put it in your money market account. And, they might say, well, we have it. We're going to put it in short-term bonds or long-term bonds, and bonds are kind of equivalent to money market account. No, they're not. They're not at all. They're still subject to the volatility of the markets. So I would say, I just want to put 40% or so into a money market account, and leave the rest of it. If you want to leave it in the Magellan Fund, that's fine. But I don't want to see you all in, and what I mean is 100% into the market. I don't think that's prudent. I don't think it makes good sense. I think we're living in such volatile times, and as I just said before I took your call, we've built everything on this house of cards that looks like it's got nothing to do but blow down, and you need to have some of it preserved during that time so that you're not subject to that loss in the markets.
Mm-hmm. They said there was going to be 35% domestic stock, 15 foreign stock, 40% bonds, 10% short term. If they managed it, that's what they would do.
Well, I would, I wouldn't do any foreign, and I wouldn't do any at 40% in bonds. Is too heavy for me right now. So I don't, that doesn't excite me. It's not as conservative as I think you need to be. And, the 10% that is short-term bonds, that's what they're considering cash. Well, short-term bonds are relatively stable. They're not likely to see a whole lot of volatility. So that's not the worst thing, but it's not money market either. So I just think you need to take even a more conservative approach than that. I think that would make the most sense.
Do you think I should just, aside from keeping the 40% in a money market account, do you think the 50% should go into a Roth IRA?
Well, I don't have a problem with that, but you have to be okay with paying the taxes. So, I don't know how much money it is, but if it's a fair amount of money, it could be a significant tax bill. And, you've got to decide whether, you're willing to pay those taxes. So I love Roth. I think it would be great for you in the long run, but you got to be okay. I'm okay with you paying taxes on it, but are you okay with doing it? And that's what you have to think about. I got to run, Donna. Thank you so much. Great stuff. 866-300-9298. Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Dan Celia from Financial Issues. Like every ministry, we need to raise support to continue in the work that the Lord has for us to do. One of the ways that we do that is we ask you to help support the ministry by becoming a partner with us in the ministry. What you get for that partnership is access to our investment strategies. You'll get access to our asset allocation models, my stock picks that come out every Monday, our email alerts that may tell you when to buy or sell, or maybe give you comfort during a volatile time. It is an incredible value for $85 a year, and you get to support the ministry. It sure would be a blessing to us. Would you consider supporting Financial Issues and be a partner? I guarantee it'll be the best investment you ever make. Go to financialissues.org, financialissues.org to support the ministry. I sure would appreciate it.
I'm considering consolidating my student loans. Should I expect the interest rate to be lower than, say, what it is now? I got these loans in like 96. Is that all that I should consider, just the interest rate itself?
It depends. The ideal situation would be if you're going to consolidate by getting, if you had a home equity loan or something like that and paying them off, that would be the best scenario. Are there going to be fees associated with that consolidation? You've got to factor that in along with the interest rate.
I'm a many-time listener to you. You are providing sound financial background to people who maybe don't have access to it.
The opinions and recommendations expressed by Dan are his own and do not necessarily represent the opinions of this station or any of the show's sponsors.
Welcome back, Financial Issues. 866-300-9298. I'm sorry, Devin and I were talking. I was just laughing about. So we were talking about global warming. I mean, we don't want to talk about the economy. We're talking about global warming. Anyway, 866-300-9298 if you're away, and we're going to get right back to the phones. Let's take a quick look at the markets. The Dow is up 3, Nasdaq's up 10, the S&P barely up. So that's where we are right now. At 10 o'clock, we're going to get out existing home sales for the month of January. So that's going to be a very interesting numbers. So, if it comes out better than expected, or if it even meets expectations, and expectations are calling for it to be lower than it was for the month of December. So if it even just meets expectations, everything will be fine. I don't know why, just because that's the way it should be. I would assume if the number comes in considerably lower, that that'll not weigh well in the markets. Anyway, let me go to Kathy. Kathy calling us from Arkansas. Hey, Kathy.
Hello, Dan. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
My husband and I have been listening to your program for a long time and have been partners now for a little over a year. And in the beginning of 2013, we prayed about and decided on a small amount of money that I would use to invest, to learn, basically, the things that you are teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been, doing pretty well with that, and have a question about that I'd love to hear your comments on, and then I have another question related to that.
Okay.
I tried to follow your asset allocation models, and because the amount of money that I was investing to learn with is small, my pieces of the pie are also very small.
Mm-hmm.
And so in looking at when to sell or when to hold, and looking at the fees involved with buying and selling, that, of course, impacts that whole
mm-hmm.
cash flow part. I think you understand what I'm trying
to
say.
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, along with that, then, we are, my husband and his brother and my sister-in-law and I are heirs to his aunt, who's 94 years old, and as we've been working with her through her finances this year, have found that she had a considerable amount of money sitting in cash
mm-hmm.
that we're now having to figure out what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And we personally have an IRA with one of the a large brokerage house, and our financial manager there has been talking with us about how to manage this money for our aunt, really with the view of handling it as though it were our money, since it's going to far outlive her.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my question is, looking at the small amount of money that I've been learning with, and then having this large amount of money that we're having to make decisions about how to handle, at what point would you recommend that we turn that over to a professional rather than handle the investing on our own?
Mm-hmm.
I did pose to our financial manager the question about investing in things that were that had our worldview, in companies that were biblically sound, and he explained that even though he shares our worldview, that in investing and working with money managers, that's very difficult,
mm-hmm.
Nearly impossible. So I just wanted to hear your advice and your comments on both ends of the spectrum, how to handle asset allocations on a very small scale, mm-hmm. and then also, at what point does this need to be taken over and handled by someone who knows the financial world better?
And before I do that, Kathy, are you guys? Do you have a relationship with your aunt?
Oh yes.
You talk. Okay.
Oh yes.
Okay,
yes,
so a couple things. Okay, so a couple things I would say is that, and very, very important, and this is important for everyone listening. 99.9% of financial advisors will tell you that it's either impossible or very difficult to do. And that is the very first thing out of their mouth. I've been doing it for 32 years, and I will continue to do it. And did it when I was managing hundreds, $900 million and with my trust company. So it's not impossible. It's very doable. It's a lot of work. You can't be lazy, and you got to be willing to, do a little bit, obviously a little bit more work. But more importantly, it means that if you are a financial manager that is like so many, and you have that herd mentality where you're just following somebody out there that you think is a leader that you can't even see because you're so, there's so many sheep in front of you, then it does make it impossible to do it. So I would say this to everybody: do not waver. Do not waver. Do not ever be talked into, and do not ever change on your convictions. Because in my opinion, now that you just can't waver. The idea of giving money because someone says that it's impossible to a company that is supporting abortion is just not even, shouldn't even be on your radar screen ever, no matter what anybody says. So that's number one. So do not waver from that. At what point in time, the one thing I was going to say to you about your aunt, right now, an ideal situation would be, and I don't know what kind of relationship you have with her, but the ideal situation would be to talk to her about gifting and the importance of saving some taxes maybe or whatever to get some of that money out of her estate. And, so the rule of thumb is that if you gift some money to somebody and then you die within 5 years, then the gift gets prorated based on, how many years there is between the time you got it and, the date of death. So there's some taxes that get prorated, but either way you could save some taxes. But the other side of that is it just makes good sense because even if you don't avoid the tax, it helps you get some of that money into your account so that you can start working with it. I would not be in favor or wouldn't recommend to anybody that they start, if they're managing an account of a person, that their mother or anybody else, that they would start managing it as if it were their money. I just, it's just, I don't know. I wouldn't do that. I just don't think it's necessarily the right thing to do. I think that you manage it as if it is your mother's or your aunt's or whoever's money. But if you can, by way of gifting, get some of that money, then I think it's a good idea. So I think you said there were 4 of you. So technically you could get $28,000 each, $14,000 each, $28,000 for you and your husband and $28,000 for the other two people. And you could get that out of the state of cash, and then, of course, you can manage that any way you want. I would suggest that you talk to her about that and see if that's a possibility, because it just makes a lot of sense. So, and when you do that, I would write 4 separate checks. So I'd write a check to you, a check to your husband, a check, 4 separate checks for $14,000. And you can't gift more than that. You can, but then you have to pay a gift tax. So do that. If she's still with us in next year, if we're still here next year, hopefully we won't be, but if we are, then, you can do it again in January. So I think that makes a lot of sense. If your aunt would be amenable to that, I think that's what you ought to try to do. So, but having said that, now about your asset allocation model, it's understandable that it's small, and there will probably be some parts of the allocation model that you might leave out because of it's a small amount. Now, but if you haven't done that, I give you a lot of credit, because I think that's the better thing to do, particularly in your situation, because your asset allocation model has been established. And even though it's, it's a relatively small amount of money, you have it established. So you're prepared when you get an inflow of money to be able to start, distributing that and keeping account of that. At what point do you turn over this money to a professional advisor? I don't think there is a point that you have to reach a certain point. I think it's purely 100% based on comfort level. And if you are 100% comfortable with an advisor and you feel very comfortable with what they are doing, then it's always a good thing, to have a professional advisor doing it, unless you just love doing it and you're willing to spend the time, the little bit of time that it takes to do it, then that's fine. But so I don't think that it's based on any kind of amount or any kind of a time. It's just based on trust and, your comfort level with doing that. On the same time, if you're very comfortable with you being able to do it, listen, the idea should be that you're not entering into, even if you're doing it yourself, you're not doing it yourself so that you might be constantly buying and selling. That's not the goal. The goal is that you develop a strategy and that you forget about it. You're not worried about it. You're just leaving it alone. Your strategy is set. You may want to look at reallocating based on whether the portfolio was up or down on a regular basis. But, you develop your strategy and you stick to it and you don't worry about it. So it shouldn't be, it's a lot of work in the beginning, but it shouldn't be as time goes on. So I think it's just a matter of comfort and trust with, turning this amount of money over. So I would be very cautious about doing that, but I really do think that's really all it is. So I don't know if that helps you, but I think that might give you some insights. But I would continue with your asset allocation model just like you're doing. I mean, if there are some right now, if I were doing it, I'd probably say, you know what, I'm going to lean a little bit heavier in the energy sector piece. So rather than put a little bit in this one particular sector, I'm going to use that and just kind of build up my energy sector. That would be fine. I don't have a problem with being overweighted in one area if it is, energy sector or something that makes sense for you and for the economic time. So I don't know if that answers everything, but might give you some insights.
That does. That helps quite a bit. And so really, whether it's $10,000 or $500,000, then you think it would be perfectly okay to handle the investments ourselves? I do, but that's, I would be the only one that would tell you that. But yeah, I do. Yeah. I think it is because because you're not doing it on your own. Is why I say that. Right. And we have talked with her about it, and she has already begun doing the gifting.
Oh, good. That's great.
And we have moved all of her cash assets into an irrevocable trust, and so we have those protected.
Good.
But it's just sitting in a money market right now, and it's like, okay, what's the next step now that we've gotten everything out of all of these little pockets where we've found it and got it all together? Now, where do we go from here? And that's where we were.
Listen, here's what I say, Kathy. You've done a good job. You've got it all together. It sounds like she has a significant amount of money. Preserve it. I mean, it is silly at this point in the economy to be, worrying about taking some risk. You're not in any hurry to get this invested. Let's see what this year brings. Let's see what. Well, I mean, we may know in the next 6 months, but let's see where things go. I would just leave it right where it is.
Yeah, and she has income sufficient to cover about 65% of her monthly expenses, and so we know that we've got to have all of this there to take care of the shortfall for her needs. But we also know that it's going to far outlive her, unfortunately.
Sure.
But
yeah. Well, I think you're doing the right things, and I don't have a problem with you doing it yourself because, again, you're not buying and selling. I know I talk to people that are saying, I'm just going to put it in Timothy, 2-3 mutual funds in Timothy and forget about it. I mean, that's fine, too. I mean, I just think that you're on the right track. At least you are. You have that asset allocation model, and you're not doing it yourself. You're getting... of course I'm going to say this, but I think you're getting good, solid advice and a strategy that is not only biblical, but I think it'll be good for you in the long run. I've got to run, Kathy. Thank you so much. Appreciate the call, and I'm glad that's some help to you. 866-300-9298. Folks, I'm Dan Celia. Financial Issues. We're trying to help people be the best steward they can be with all that God has given them. We're talking about the economy, and we're helping you. And yes, we are talking a little bit about politics as well.